Hello, and welcome my interweb learning friends. Now, there are some great examples of American history that one would think were completely made up because they're just so incredible. And I would rank this story amongst them. It happened on October 14th in 1912 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a day where a former president was shot in the chest and then proceeded to give a 90-minute speech. It was a day where we found out it ain't that easy to kill a bull moose. Vice President Teddy Roosevelt became president on September 14, 1901, 8 days after an anarchist shot President William McKinley at the Pan American Exposition in my hometown of Buffalo, New York. But Teddy was a different sort of Republican than William McKinley. He was a progressive Republican, which today you might have a better chance of finding a three-legged unicorn. But his progressive policies definitely put him at odds with the more conservative bloc of Republicans in Congress, and inviting Booker T. Washington to dine at the White House, along with proposing new labor and environmental regulations, did not make the rift any smaller. But even with the fracture in the GOP, Teddy became amazingly popular, and he swept the Electoral College in 1904. And his promise to deliver a square deal to every American really did resonate. And he also made another promise in 1904 to never run for the presidency again, respecting the unwritten tradition begun by George Washington to only serve 2 terms. And he did. In 1908, Teddy stepped back from the election and he backed William Howard Taft, a fellow Republican who went on to win the presidency. Now, over the next 4 years, Teddy watched from the sidelines as the more conservative Taft began to walk back many of Teddy's policies. Roosevelt became so disappointed that in 1912 promised schmarmishes he was going to run for a 3rd term, but this time not as a Republican. Taft would secure that nomination, and not as a Democrat. Woodrow Wilson would be their nominee. Instead, Roosevelt would run as a third-party candidate, a progressive, a party that was quickly nicknamed the Bull Moose Party. And by the fall of 1912, Teddy was barnstorming the country, giving fiery speeches and fighting to win. This is what brought him to Milwaukee, where he was ready to give one of those fiery speeches on October 14th. On the fateful day, Roosevelt was scheduled to give a speech entitled "Progressive Cause Greater Than Any Individual," a 50-page speech that would save his life. Now, after finishing dinner at the Hotel Kilpatrick, the ex-president walked out of the hotel and was quickly approached by John Schrank, a 36-year-old former saloon owner from New York City. Now, a year after McKinley's death, Schrank had a dream in which he saw the dead president lying in his coffin, and the corpse rose and pointed to Teddy Roosevelt in the robe of a monk. McKinley turned his face to Schrank and stated,
"This is my murderer. Avenge my death."
On September 14, 1912, 2 months before the assassination attempt, Schrank was writing poetry in his home when he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to see dead President McKinley behind him, stating,
"Do not let a murderer sit in the president's chair."
This time he heeded the insane advice and began following Roosevelt across the country with his trusted .38 caliber revolver. Now, the 2 men were face to face. Schrank, only feet from the ex-president, pointed the gun to his head, but as he went to fire, a bystander, Adam Bittner, acted quickly and pushed Schrank's arms downward, causing the bullet to hit Roosevelt squarely in the chest. And protecting that chest was not only his eyeglass case, but the folded 50-page speech that he was about to deliver. With the bullet being slowed rather than piercing through Roosevelt's heart, the bullet became lodged in his chest, knocking the ex-president to the ground. Now, Roosevelt's bodyguards, including an ex-football player and a former Rough Rider, quickly took action and pounced on the assassin. His aide, Harry Cosham, asked Roosevelt if he was hit, and Roosevelt simply assured him, "He pinked me, Harry," Within moments, bystanders began to demand a lynching, chanting, "Kill him, hang him." And Roosevelt stood up, holding his chest, and asked if the assassin was okay, and calmed the crowd. And then he actually asked for the assassin to be brought to him. He squarely looked into Schrank's eyes and asked him why he did it. With no response, Roosevelt ordered that he be brought to the police, and he demanded that his attempted killer be kept safe. Now, upon entering the automobile, Roosevelt, as an experienced hunter, figured that since he was not coughing blood, the bullet hadn't reached his lung, so he refused to go to the hospital immediately. Instead, he delivered the scheduled speech. As blood seeped through his shirt, he spoke for 84 minutes before completing his speech and accepting any medical attention. His opening comments to the gathered crowds were the following: "Friends, I ask you to be quiet as possible. I don't know if you fully understand that I've just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. But fortunately, I had my manuscript, so I was going to make a long speech, and there is a bullet. There is where the bullet went through, and it probably saved me from going into my heart. The bullet is in me now, so that I cannot make a very long speech, but I will try my best." While Teddy was strong enough to withstand being shot in the chest and giving an 84-minute speech, he was not strong enough to win that race, where the GOP vote was splintered into two, and that allowed Democrat Woodrow Wilson to win the Electoral College and the presidency. As for John Schrank, while he pled guilty to attempted murder, the trial judge ruled that there was enough evidence to show that he was insane and that he was not competent. He was committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin in 1914, where he remained there for more than 29 years until he died at the age of 67 in September of 1943. So, my learning friends, try if you must, but be forewarned. It takes more than a gunshot to kill a bull moose. Thanks for tuning in and doing some of the good old learning on the internets with me. If you're not subscribed, now would be a wonderful time to click that sub button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos. And if you're ever in the need of a learning rabbit hole to fall into, just click the link in the description below to land into my video arsenal packed with more than 400 brain marinating lessons. And it wouldn't be a Hip Hughes video if it didn't remind you what I believe with every fiber of my being. Where attention goes, energy flows. I also wish all of you love and light in your lives. So farewell, my friends, until the next time that you press my button.